don't.
It's not the first time.
Meeting of, yeah, have you started? I've never seen them. I didn't hear it. Did it start?
If that screen said it was recording.
Okay,
My screen says it's recorded.
okay, all right, so we're recording. So this is the Energy Committee meeting of February 28th, 2024. We have our agenda up on the board. We have a quorum here with between Zoom and members in the House. And we have a number of guests from Sustainable Williston and Melanie Needle from CCRPC on Zoom also. So the first thing, besides the folks that are here, is public comment, which is reserved for the items which aren't on the agenda. Is there anybody out there? I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, let's skip that. Going on to the minutes of the last meeting, which we are. Which concentrated primarily around discussions of the energy plan update with members of Sustainable Williston, and a very lengthy and detailed and good meeting. My only point of confusion is there's never two Reeds in the room, but there
Yeah.
were, and including me. And most of these say Reed Carr or Reed Parker. And I was actually reading one that didn't, and I said, did I say it or did the other Reed say it? So
I think Reed Carr said.
it's
it was
important,
to
yes,
publicize
yes,
things,
yes,
everybody.
yes.
That's it from, let's see. And then,
I say Reed agreed that those measurements,
okay,
Yeah.
I can add.
yeah, it's
one
minor,
sentence.
it's just,
Yeah.
I'm thrilled there was another Reed. With the same spelling.
Mhm.
Are there any comments on the wording of the minutes from the committee? I didn't have any. There's a lot of information there.
Mhm.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the minutes with minor alterations for name clarification as presented?
I will make a motion to accept the minutes with minor name clarifications.
Okay, thank you. Anybody second it?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dar. All right. All committee members in favor of the minutes with minor modifications, say aye.
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 Abstain? Do I abstain because I wasn't here?
You don't have to.
You don't have, you can
as
actually
you
vote on the
choose.
minutes as you choose.
If you read them, so.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So
So,
I'll approve.
okay,
all right. All right, any opposed? And did you vote yes?
Yes.
Okay, so the ayes have it 5-0. Thank you.
okay.
All right, so the major topic over the next several meetings where it will be to get all of the draft amendments for the energy plan for 2025 put together so that we can submit it to the appropriate groups. And we've had a chance to review the plan as is, and some of us have put comments in it. The Sustainable Williston has sent, for our request from the last time, sent written comments and recommendations. And it's our job as the committee to review this project, and we're concentrating on transportation section tonight. So do you want to pull up just transportation, Melinda, to where
Sure
we
can.
were?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Here we are.
All right.
Yeah, do you want to?
So I did go through this, and a lot of those little floating bubbles or comments. There was 3 people. Who was the third person who commented from the committee? There was a lot, because Melinda's has her name and I put my initials and the third person wasn't identified, so I'm not sure who that was.
No, I didn't know you could comment that.
Yeah. Anyway, the overall tone of it I got is that when we wrote this several years ago, it was, well, we haven't done anything yet. We don't even have a committee yet. We're writing a plan. Now we've accomplished things. And so a lot of things are now, oh, that's accomplished. And Melinda has put a section of accomplishments into the plan itself, which was also a comment from last week. And so we thought we would take each major section. Can that be blown up a little? I cannot see any of that.
Yeah. How's that? Is that better? More?
Yeah, that's that front. I can see enough of it now.
Okay.
Everybody else okay? All right. So the first thing, we have our local objectives, which I would say based on what we have done in the past couple of years, instead of educate, is provide informational and educational opportunities. So that's a slight change in language, but it's still kind of what we do. We are not necessarily educators as the mechanism that people get information. The next 2, no, it's number 2 does not have a comment. Number 3 had a comment, increase the share of light duty electric vehicles registered in Williston to 10% by 2025. That's next year.
Yeah.
And I don't think Vermont's far off from the national average, which is already at 9. So I
So,
would recommend changing the target to 2030.
Well, I think Melanie had mentioned last time that, yeah, that the first target's gonna be, I think, around 2030,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. And then the
Yeah.
second.
I'm here.
go ahead.
So can we highlight that, as something to revisit once the data is ready for Williston? Because that 2025, I think, is a milestone associated with the LEAP data. So it definitely needs to be revisited, but I don't have a number for you tonight.
Yeah, and I think we assumed that there was a lot of data that needed to be updated, so this is just one piece, and it's kind of repeats an earlier section, basically those targets.
Yeah, it raises a good question because 2025 I think was our first milestone year, and we're pretty much at 2025, so it's kind of a global question of how do we explain the lack of progress. And Williston's not the only one. I mean, this is something that comes up in the regional plan as well as other municipalities. So
Melanie, do we have indications that we're underperforming we've got a year and 10 months, national average is upwards of 9% at this point, I think. Do we not think we're gonna hit 10% by end of 2025?
So I can just say that off the top of my head, I was looking at the regional numbers today, and region wide as of 2022, I think was the vintage of the data. The region was about at 2.5% of the light duty vehicle fleet. So
But
highly unlikely that we're going to get to 10%.
I do think though that it's really jumped up over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so
Like I looked at, so I go to these Drive Electric stakeholder meetings and
Oh,
every
okay. So
time
you were there today. Great.
Yeah, so they show a
Awesome.
graph of like the progress of electric vehicles registered, and basically the curve is looking like an exponential curve at this
I mean, if
point.
you look at it,
Yeah.
nationally, we just passed 5% nationally in like May of 22. We hit like 6 and change by December of 22, and it was, I want to say 9 December of 23. So I don't know how much
Yeah.
Chittenden County lags that, but yeah, okay. And then I think one thing missing here, and I don't think there's a comment in there for, but. I feel like there should be a 3.5 or something between 3 and 4, because 4 talks about. I think. Yeah, so 4 refers to heavy duty municipal vehicles, but we don't refer to light and medium duty municipal vehicles anywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I
We
feel
don't
like
have a
that,
date either.
we don't have a date for number 4, right?
right,
We're now
that
number
is
5.
actually what my comment.
That was your comment,
Yeah,
yeah.
that there's no date when we wrote this.
Yeah, we need the date for the heavy duty, but we also need something that calls out light to medium duty.
Because going from, I think where we are with heavy duty of 0 probably right now.
Yeah.
To 96 isn't gonna happen by 2025, so we need a realistic date out there, and is even the industry ready to move on to that?
And where did this 96% come from?
Oh, that is our, I don't know, Brian, that was our original wording from
That's aggressive.
4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Realistic at all.
And we don't have anything about municipal vehicles. We have
Those
a
are-
whole-
yeah, those are the ones we're doing in there.
3.4.
Yeah,
Just
Oh,
putting
municipal
it,
vehicles.
just
Okay.
putting it in as
Yeah,
a place.
Okay, yeah, okay,
Wordsmith it
oh, you
right
have,
there.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
pickup trucks and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
nature. Yeah.
On number 2,
Light and medium duty.
we just say awareness and supporting the use of public transit, and walking, bike. So don't we want to be improving or enlarging? With some kind of verb like that other than supporting? I mean, supporting is just, well, what, there's a bus, go take it.
I mean, the thing is, these are really general and
Yeah.
there's gonna be
Yeah, well,
much more
but I
specific
think,
objectives.
but I think that the objective is to do more than just support it.
Mhm.
Awareness
Is
and
to,
supporting.
to
The increase,
Incent-
all you need is an adjecate, the increased use, the
increase.
increased use of.
And supporting,
a broad verb.
supporting and
The-
expanding, supporting.
Yes,
and
very, you
expanding.
got it,
Okay,
you got
great.
it.
Whoops.
Supporting and expanding.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Can I jump in at this point? Is that inappropriate?
On one of these,
Well, to the point of talking about the walking and biking infrastructure.
okay, so as Linda said, it's really general at this point, it's an
Yeah.
objective.
Right,
So
'Cause we
if
do-
it's part of the objective, not a pathway, then we can
right.
talk about it now. We're gonna talk about pathways next, so if it's a pathway, we talk.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what it is. Let me just tell you, and then you can tell me if it's not appropriate or not. But we talked about how,
That's more of a pathway.
creating a whole new committee for.
Yeah, that is a
Yeah,
pathway,
okay,
yes, yes. And we'll talk also
Okay.
about what we've already done.
Yeah.
Subgroups of our committee have already done along
Okay.
that line, so,
Okay,
yeah.
That's a question about 4, is that 4.5 or 4 to 5, what is that?
Just 4.
It's just.
4 and 5.
it's
It's
4
5.
crossed out, it's
It's
now
at
5.
5.
Oh,
And,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and I'm
it
just
says
gonna
that.
tell you that the number formatting is
Yeah.
crazy right now.
Yes, yes.
I'm Fighting with Word and I
Yeah.
can't get it to
Yes.
behave, so we'll fix all that, just
Yeah.
ignore the
This is,
numbers.
this is just a pure editing session.
It seems like if you 96%, it seems like we should have some intermediaries like we do at number 3. So we can kind of gauge how progress we're making, right? And have a
I think that there
single goal by
are,
one date.
let's see, I think there probably are, in the earlier section, state goals, local.
Can you read that? Move real fast.
No, I
Oh,
know, I'm
that's
trying
right.
to
You're like, oh.
I'm trying to find it.
so anxious.
Residential. energy
Efficiency. Okay, here we go.
Yeah,
Maybe not, okay.
I saw something about 96%.
yeah.
Up above.
So those tables were gleaned from various reports, websites, research, of projections, and then when we wrote this originally, put into there, and then we turned them down into, the objective, and it translates from that table, but we didn't necessarily have anything to back it up.
Yeah.
I'll just make a note, oh wait. Maybe
No,
somebody.
that,
might
I
have it.
think that is my note.
By what date, and then
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put in, intermediate, as a question mark.
I mean, we should be consistent throughout the whole plan about what the different intermediate dates are, like, obviously, it's all gonna end at 2050, well, not
Right.
end, but 2050 is the ultimate one, so then where are those intermediate ones gonna fall?
Yeah,
Then we
and,
should be consistent throughout.
and we will, but again, I
Yeah.
think this is repeating information that's
Okay.
earlier back in the plan. But yeah, we'll be consistent.
Okay,
So should we highlight that one to come back to in general, because there's a whole,
well, that's why the comment,
oh, sorry, yeah,
the bubbles go over there and then
Okay.
we can bring those back. You can actually print the bubbles too, so.
Yeah, right.
There's a note on the 2025 date too. Or comment, are we considering going to,
Yes,
yeah, that's a note on that.
okay, pathways.
So again, dealing with transportation. Partner with Drive Electric Vermont, for-profit, nonprofit organizations, vehicle dealers, manufacturers, and state agencies to organize highly visible events where people can see and drive, test electric vehicles such as energy fairs and other community events. Events will also leverage local media and public access coverage to showcase residents and organizations that are helping transition to EVs, goes to show and tell day. So along this lines. That's your organization, Kevin. We've done 2 of these now.
yeah, I think this is still a totally relevant
Yeah,
part, I would just. I mean, it probably doesn't make it display a million words in the doc, but we just like delete the sentence about goes to show and tell, I feel like that's redundant,
Yeah,
it's like everything before that. kind
it
of
was,
applies. We're
yeah,
gonna.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. And short-term and ongoing, because we have discussions. We're doing another one this year at some point, yeah, so.
Yeah, this seems like a pathway we
Yeah,
continue on
pathway
to
to
achieve
continue,
those goals.
Which, because the energy committee can't dictate. Changes to the town, we can only make suggestions and help with education, so. Right, the next is.
But you can be advocates.
Yes, and
And
that's what we're doing here, right, working with different,
I mean, advocate to the select board
we can make,
and planning commission.
right, we can. Make suggestions which move from us to the planning commission to the select board.
But we can state it as if it's like we want it to be a regulation and.
There are pathways that
Yes.
do that. So
Yes,
just,
right,
so you know,
right. Promote the Drive Electric webpage that connects users to financial incentives, recharging, partner with Drive, and then there's the thing, partner with Drive Electric. The Vermont Clean Cities Coalition and other organizations to promote the expansion of workplace charging. So we are actually registered on Drive Electric as an organization now. We did that last year. So we end up getting their notices and our events get promoted on their websites. So this seems to be a kind of a continuation of the first one, and that it's how do we connect ourselves to other organizations so that we can keep promoting them and for the benefit of the populace.
and this also is a very more specific recommendation related to workplace charging, so it's like a more targeted outreach.
Yeah.
Reaching out to businesses, talking with the town. To promote workplace
Yeah,
charging.
and so a lot of people are afraid of EVs nowadays. It's turning off because of charging infrastructure. Oh, no, the media is saying that. The media is saying that there's a turn down.
It's a question of
And I think
second
that-
derivative,
I think
the
that range
growth is still going up.
anxiety is still creeping into a lot of people's. I mean, I hear Toyota's backing off and going more into the hybrid space as they planned it originally, but the media is saying that that's the winning path because people have range anxiety and they want the backup gas engine, right? And so with the IRA, there's gonna be a rollout of more charging infrastructure, I would assume. And how, what can we do to let people know what that is gonna look like? I mean, they know what the charging structure is maybe today, but what is it gonna look like in the future? So,
Vermont has its own goals at, what, 30 miles, many charging station. I don't
From
know
a
what
level
what
3.
date that is.
well,
From
what
a
kind?
level 3 charging station.
Yeah, Vermont is, like every other state has a plan on file with NEVI, NEVI, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Bill, something as part of the IRA. I don't know that any of those are in progress yet, but it was either, 30 or 50 mile, or every 30 or 50 on the interstates.
Yeah.
If you look at the interstates today, I think we're already there.
Yeah, almost.
So there's new charging networks coming online that will be interesting for people to know. There's obviously the adoption by every major manufacturer of the Tesla supercharger network,
Right.
which rolled out for Ford already, rolling out for Rivian and others later this year. So there's probably I mean, we're talking about like in general, like things we can do there. There's probably a good Williston Observer article we can do, right? We can highlight that kind of information in our the events that we call it in 1.1. I think there's a lot of ways for us to talk about charging infrastructure.
So do we need to put it in as a pathway to?
I think it's kind of already, like, I would
is it in
assume,
there?
it's included in one, right? Because
Mhm.
maybe we want to be more specific about it, but charging is something we talk about every time we engage with the public on EVs, right? So if it's not, we can maybe add it explicitly to 1.1. It's already called out in the other 1.1. Sorry.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah, it says recharging stations for EVs.
Yeah, that should just be charging stations.
Just
Where's that? Where's that?
The next
second
one,
line.
the second,
Second
right above
line,
where your
second
cursor
word.
Oh,
is.
okay.
Yeah,
And
just
charging
change that to
station.
charging.
Okay.
But yeah, Kevin, I think that would be a great
Okay.
short-term topic for an Observer article,
Yeah.
because the landscape is changing. And just so we all hear it, the rate of EV sales has not decreased. It was up 30% last year, year over year.
Good,
It's
great.
it was up 50% last year. It's forecast to go up 30% this year. The rate of change is slowing because you can't maintain 70% growth rates year after year, right, as you gain penetration,
Yeah, I
but
just read an article yesterday that said that GM and others are cutting back on their plans for rollout of batteries.
Yeah. It's complicated, but it's
factories
not.
and-
Yeah,
Okay, good.
it's not.
Thank you. The next, is that a new bullet below the time frame?
Yes.
Okay. It's bulletless, but continue to
I know.
facilitate and promote EV ambassador program by regularly posting on
At some
Front Porch
point,
Forum
we'll
to
understand.
solicit new ambassadors and
Is that?
and publicize the program to potential electors. So this is for those in the room, we created an EV ambassador program through our EV fairs. And we get current owners who have signed up as volunteers who are willing to, within guidelines, talk to potential owners who contact them about their experiences. They don't represent dealerships, they aren't doing it for money, and they can talk about, hey, I own a Tesla, or I own this, or I own that, and how they feel about owning it. And somebody says, I'm thinking of looking at the new Subaru, and you find out there's somebody that owns one, they might be able to do it. So can we just say, hosting on Front Porch Forum and other social or and other media.
Sure.
It's-
Stupid comments pop up every time.
Whoa.
Oh, I just.
Oh.
Running the skiing, so.
How do you undo?
There must be.
Okay, thank you. Ah,
Thank you.
yeah, should I continue down or?
Yes,
Yeah,
does anybody else have comment from the committee?
Okay,
Okay, so. Now, moving away from EVs and back to 1.1. Continue to work with local motion to make Williston safe and welcoming for bicycling, walking safety. So. Planning commission or a new, so this belongs to either planning commission or a new mobility committee. So some of you worked on a subcommittee with local motion, was that correct?
Right.
Yeah, anybody
We-
want to talk
we
about that?
Postponed and then we're gonna restart. But it was considered a task force,
Yes,
which just had at maximum three energy committee members. And local motion and safe routes to school. And so we had a tactical thing to do, which is to identify ARPA funds, identify safe routes to school improvements. So we got that done and we want to continue. But we took a little hiatus there for skiing.
Melinda, is that a legacy of the previous plan where it says the lead entities planning commission? Should that say energy committee or a task force slash subcommittee?
it probably was because of the ones that was out there in two thousand
Yeah.
nineteen, which is also when we were writing
Yeah.
this. You know.
sure, I can change that.
Energy committee's got the lead, but it would be like what we're getting,
Or a
task force.
mobility task force, yeah. Committee has the implication the select board has formalized
Right.
this, task force can be part of a subgroup of a committee with other citizens.
Right, and when I mean, I've been asked in a long time, but when I asked to get a bike path committee, they said they don't have the resources with, town works availability, so they said, no. So
So-
we could try, doesn't mean we can't try again.
Right,
Yeah, this is like the first step in
Yeah.
that direction and whether, like. Yeah, public works or planning staffs, it's kind of like small steps, but this is, yeah.
Okay, and now. One thing that I don't know if we wanna add here. In 1.1 is something about see if we can get locomotion to do a. Level of traffic stress analysis to where we could find out. Or there were, I mean, the committee could also try to do it. But it's an official way of measuring. Safe routes for bicyclists, where it's like, how much stress do you feel?
Is that?
I walk around this tap corner.
Right, so I don't know if we wanna have that as a pathway, is to do,
Is that implied by the path where we have, like, could that just, no, could that be an action the energy committee takes under this pathway to make Wilson safe and welcome?
but that's an
improvements and
actual.
connections, but yeah, so
Function,
more technical, yeah, okay.
Could I ask,
Could we also, you mentioned another group after local motion, safe routes to school, do we want to put their name in there too?
Safe routes to
I think we
school as
should.
well.
Continue to work with local motion
I think-
and safe routes to school?
sure, although I think there's another bullet further down that mentions safe routes. to
Oh,
school, but
okay,
I can,
okay.
put it in here, I wanna open.
Cause
stuff in
they're
here.
having a walk tomorrow, they're very, every month, it's.
Yeah, they're really good this year.
I think it's having an effect, I see more kids. Biking and walking.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry.
Strike that from the recording.
I have the hardest time with this, I'm sorry, it's just this,
So we should do that as, instead of ongoing, do we also want to rate that as short term, medium term?
oh, this, local
Yeah.
park and ride spaces.
No, the one about it, they are back on local motion.
I think it's ongoing, right? I mean, it's already been started, we're
All right.
continuing it.
Okay,
I don't know, Melinda, the words, I don't know if they have like meaning. I would assume short term means we haven't started it, but would like to start it in the short term.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't think that it matters, you can put it in or not.
Okay.
yeah,
By the time this gets published.
Yeah.
But do we wanna put in there, that to form a committee or task force?
Let me see if. Yeah, well, let's put it in there,
We'll be in 1.1, right?
so it'd be somewhere in 1.1.
one of the 1.1, some do a word.
Could we just update the existing one and say form a task force to work with
Yeah,
local motion, like
Yeah.
just add it to the existing one, because it's kind of.
More forceful.
Yeah.
Task force,
exactly,
not committee, or do we wanna like?
Yeah,
reach for the
committee again,
stars?
well,
Could I jump in on that one?
Yeah,
I really think it should be a bullet to say push for creation of the bike ped, or maybe just a transit committee.
a mobility committee or something.
So, yeah, so, you know, it doesn't need to be specific to bike ped, but to evaluate all transit options within the town.
alternative transportation and all that.
We had one,
Yeah.
but Melinda, what was there's the mobility projects group
It was,
under the planning commission?
yeah, it was more of a task force, like. Yeah, mobility projects group.
Yeah, because
That's still,
because
that's still a group.
We stopped working back in 2020 after the town map.
So 2.5, which follows 1.1, deals with mobility in a larger sense, like buses and things like that. So there is a whole section here, which we have every right to rewrite. You know,
Yeah.
but if you want people to look at it with some level of granularity, you have this first one that talks about bicycling, walking, in other words, non-motorized
bike
events.
paths,
Yeah,
Like that.
which has value as it's written, and then another one dealing with transportation other than single car use, which is, I think, what this purpose is.
I think that, you know, a group or a task force, I think walking and biking is enough of a focus.
Yes,
You don't wanna get too broad, so.
right.
What do we hope to gain with a permanent mobility committee?
Well, if you ask me, it's like, how much time are we spending engaging with some, like these like V-Trans to say, when you guys are coming to tear up this road, repave, or even around the town, when you're replacing, repave the roads. Just happens, like, can we sit down and talk to the design first? Right, so there's someone dedicated to that to say. I'll use the example of my own personal life, Talcott Road.
Sure.
Stupidly wide. It's like, is there somebody sitting down with the town and saying, you can repave this? Can we shrink it, put in actual sidewalks along it, and
So the reason I ask, and I agree with you, the reason I ask is when we went through the formation of the energy committee, there's a lot of back and forth about whether or not the committee was advisory in nature or could actually help make policy. And we kept coming back again and again and again, you know, the committee doesn't even, don't even advise the select board, we advise the planning commission, who then advises the select board. I wonder,
Sometimes you advise.
I guess we do it with the solar panels, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can write yes.
But it's, I guess I'm just wondering, like, if it's a committee, does it have the, I guess I'll call them teeth, to actually make good on that versus, I don't know, is
Yeah.
it like, to committee? Is a committee, like, committee will go through the select board, it's gonna be a process.
Yeah.
It's that, right? As opposed to, we have a fully within our charter to stand up a task force or a working group in that space. And I'm wondering if the output or the outcomes associated are the same.
Yeah, it's because if you do a permanent mobility committee, you have a structural test. Somebody has to propose it, somebody and the select board has to approve it, you then have a approved number of members, we have to follow rules of engagement. We can't just meet ad hoc, we have to warn our meetings, we have to publish them, and that box that you work in, is there enough in a mobility committee? It could be going on for a long life, but to make it permanent.
And other towns, they work with their public works people, and their public works people are wanting to do that. Right?
That's
They're
what
looking
yeah.
for, and they're
Yeah.
making, and we're not gonna be there.
Well, but
Like a South
Well, it's only
Burlington.
64 years old, man.
that was part of my point though, is that I think the bigger question we need to answer in this space is the relationship between a committee, whether it's this one with the task force or something else, and public works. And this has come up a number of times, like how can I'll use the energy committee as an example, how can the energy committee have a seat at the table for decision-making, not just finding out about it after the fact? So during budget deliberations in like November, we heard from all of the town departments, oh, we're looking at electric vehicles.
Right.
Right, and that's like the extent of the feedback that we get. We need to have an improved relationship with them so that it's not just, oh, we're looking at it, but there's like a give and take, a back and forth. And I think we need to fix
So-
that.
Yeah, so I have a suggestion as far as like how a committee could actually have a say in how things get built, and that's you could put in here an objective, form a permanent mobility committee, or you could put in an objective, and this is sort of more general, for the energy committee to have a role in reviewing proposed developments for, like, for example, like roads. I mean, the problem is that the public works standards as they are today are not complete. I mean, they're not, the roads are too wide.
I know.
And so it's more like how to change those standards.
So are we barking up the wrong tree here? Is the right, we're using the energy committee as the vehicle because that's who we are, right? And that's who Sustainable Williston's working with. Is a better path to advocate, and maybe us Sustainable Willistoners can do this, like, can we advocate with the planning commission that their enhancements to the town plan include the resuscitation of the mobility projects group and the types of things we're talking about? Like, is that a better place to do that than here in the energy committee?
It might be a goal that's better placed in the transportation section of the town plan, like just,
Okay.
I mean, you could have it here, but I think putting it, in transportation to, getting in the town plan is like the first step to getting it done.
And as residents, citizens, like, is our approach to doing that to engage with the planning commission?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
when the time comes and they're discussing the transportation stuff, yeah, absolutely, engage with them. Also,
Okay.
there's amongst the staff, we're working with the planning commission already to draft chapters, so I could connect you with the folks that are working on transportation, and you could have,
Because it's a more direct route to what we want,
yeah.
and faster and more expedient. Just having been through the standing of this committee,
Mhm.
it took so long, it was painful, right? And if the planning commission if we can influence the planning commission, who kind of has some authority, like, it's the plan,
I mean,
right?
And they're gonna be also looking at the energy plan too, so, but.
Right, but I think it's more, getting Sustainable Wilson people or myself, yourself,
Yeah, in front of
anyone else
planning.
wants to go, attend those meetings with and really push them to try to improve town road standards.
Point of
Can I-
information,
Oh,
just clarification. Is the planning commission writing a town plan that basically duplicates the energy plan?
No,
no, it's
The energy
They're meeting
plan-
on the same sections that we're meeting on, right?
not,
so
not here.
the town comprehensive plan is being written. The energy plan is part of that. The energy plan, because it's, basically, it is incorporated into the town plan, but it is also a standalone enhanced energy plan. So the energy committee is working on that plan now. It will also, once the energy committee is done with a draft, it will go to the planning commission, and the planning commission will
Okay, we'll
review.
go through those sections.
Yeah.
Review it and then it's still a standalone document.
It's a
Will we have-
standalone document. There will be an energy plan
There's that
chapter
chapter.
or an energy chapter, but it will be very brief. It will just really summarize this. It's not gonna be, it's,
And
there's.
refer to this.
So we'll refer to this and basically give a brief summary.
Mhm.
But this is not, once this is done, this is just as much a part of the town plan.
Absolutely,
Yes.
yeah.
It's because of our approval. Melanie can get the correct language, which had to do with the, like, say, the advanced energy plan and how we were approved for land use planning and everything, that we want that a separate document.
Yeah, it has to be approved by the PUC, it has to meet their standards and all the requirements. And CCRPC will be reviewing it to make sure that it complies with the standards of it's not the PUC, it's the
It's the Public Service Department.
Service Department, yes, thank
I
you.
thought they were the.
Yeah.
PUC.
So that's why you don't want to blend it into the whole town plan.
So-
So it has to be separate.
Yeah, so we'll be separate, but it will be incorporated by reference into the town plan.
Right.
It will be a part of the town plan.
So can I ask a question about public works and committees versus task forces? So I have this vague understanding that there's kind of citizen participants in various parts of running of the town, except for public works. Is that true?
So,
I said this to Eric Wells. One-on-one, he was looking for information.
Uh-huh.
for- What was it, the 2050 or something, or no, for the ARPA money.
Okay,
So I asked him that blanket, I said, is public works an authoritarian?
so there
I
are,
do what I want,
there are,
and he said that they do what the select board, it's between him and the select board. So, the select board rubber stamp what he does.
so
okay.
there
So
are.
it's one
Can
person.
I just
Yeah.
try to answer the question? There are different departments in town.
Mhm.
And there's public works, there's fire, there's police,
Right.
there's the planning department. The planning department, I would say the planning department really staffs all of, well, not all, but most of the citizen boards that have an input into long-range planning and also reviewing, development. So I mean, I think Bruce staffs the Lake Iroquois committee. He doesn't staff a bike ped committee. And so, yeah, it's not like the committees have a say over the departments. They're not in charge of the departments. They do have a voice in like long-range planning, creating a town plan, and amending the zoning bylaws. And the planning commission is primarily responsible for amending the zoning bylaws and creating and amending or revising the town plan.
And very importantly, we're making recommendations that do make it up to the select board that can affect expenditures and benefits for the town. Both us, for instance, the solar project on the public works that was purchased because we recommended it. The Catamount committee that I'm on, we just did a forestry management project that was a long-range plan that had to go to the select board for approval and had multiple benefits to it, both financial and for the forest management itself. And so each of these committees does that, so.
And then just, also, the town departments, like, they're all on even footing. Like, planning department does not have any authority over public works, neither do they have authority over us. We don't have authority over police or fire. The town manager is the one who, oversees all the departments, under the select board's policies. So basically, that's.
Is there any prohibition
There's
of?
no public input directly
Uh-huh.
to Public Works on transportations.
We
There is what we write, but there's no feedback. Like we say, I think in the present town plan, it says complete streets is a goal of ours, right? Do towns works, standards
So,
meet complete streets? I doubt it. There's no sign, and there's no evidence of it to me, and so there's no feedback.
But
It's
what I
just-
would
it's
say
one-
is-
We write it, they ignore it.
but I would say is, in order to give that feedback, you need to go to the town manager and you need to go to the select board, and the same way that you did.
It's fire
yeah.
and police, right? I mean, it's
Right.
like, the fire station doesn't have any feedback either, like, it's an executive
Yeah.
function within the
Yeah,
town.
right.
Aren't there, citizen review boards for the police? And, no, so there's no,
No,
so we don't have any input into how the police department operates. We don't have any input to the way public service operates. This
Through the
department,
town, through.
But are public, are those, can we go to their meetings?
I
They're
don't
public,
think so.
they're public, right?
The fire department?
Yeah.
No,
Why not?
I don't know. I think.
I think we
pay them- we pay them salaries.
You're straying off.
Yeah, I think so. So I had a chance to participate in the town hired a person from the state to review some of the ways in which the staffing of the police issues they run into doing their job. And I got to sit on a group that listened in on that, and provide some feedback to it too. So there is a mechanism, and that was very interesting for one afternoon to sit there with a dozen other people and listen to this consultant from the state who had a lot of experience in public service, public protection, and what does the town want to see from its police force in terms of staffing, protection, so on. So yes, there are things that happen, and that was an event that was brought up. I don't know what the origin of it was, but certainly Eric Wells, was the one who invited people to come to this meeting.
It's a one-time event.
No, the consultant did a lot of work for the benefit of it, got input from different groups. But it was one afternoon that I got to sit in and listen and converse with people.
So I think this plan, as we get to some of the other pathways, is one way to achieve the outcome we want of some more of that bi-directional communication, I think. I think some of the stuff submitted by Sustainable Williston calls that out, right, in terms of not us energy committee making recommendations, also the town departments coming back with some more information about their decision-making process around electric vehicles. That was one of the SW recommendations, right? But I think we can put pathways in here that would open up a bi-directional communication, right? So it's not,
Yeah.
we're not locked out.
Yeah,
We need to strategically think of what goes in here so that we have the communication channels we want.
yeah.
Well, wasn't one of the things that we talked about at one point was actually changing the town policy, like the fleet purchasing
Right,
policy? or
and that
something,
is
right?
a pathway in here.
Yeah, I thought I
for-
remembered seeing that. That's already in there.
Okay, before we leave my favorite subject, what, do we wanna mention complete streets as an objective?
It is down,
It's
it is.
down below.
Yeah.
So-
Okay, thank you.
Yes, to pull us back around with conversation, form a permanent mobility committee. Do we want that in there as a pathway? Or do we want to say something about starting conversations with other departments about making Williston safe and welcoming for walking, biking, and other mobility.
Can I jump in and say something about that?
And that was more
Is
a
it-
question for the committee right now,
Okay,
so,
okay.
I was,
we're the ones writing it.
my personal opinion, we as a town would be more. I think we'd see more effect come out of putting citizens in front of the planning commission, asking them to include this in their. Part of the town plan, than we would say staff and new committee, just my opinion.
Okay, so you don't think that, like, the mobility committee, it made a map and then it just like, okay, well, that's the map. There's a committee continues, could kind of like push for it and they can see what, track the progress and
But-
why,
But to Melinda's point, is it in our energy plan, or does it go into the planning?
I think there's value there, Kevin. I think it's a conversation that's probably better handled, more effectively handled with the planning commission in their input to the town plan. And I would expect them to be the ones to, I just feel like, maybe I'm wrong, I feel like planning is in a better position to staff and advise an ongoing subgroup committee task force.
right, but we need this here as it is, because to work with local motion. That's what you, me, and
We still
John
have-
are doing.
We still have a task force, for
We
sure.
still have a task force, so
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
that's.
Yeah,
we're
there's
using
nothing
that,
wrong with
right.
The 1.1 at the top, you
It
know,
requires the energy committee
Yeah.
to have a bike,
Right.
bike ped task force.
Right.
Right.
but we just put a new line in
So
there.
do you want me to scratch this line?
What line?
Form a permanent mobility committee.
I would scratch that and in the section 1.1 above, I would say maybe a little more strongly. Form a bike ped task force to work with local motion. That's something that we can do very specifically. I think effectively.
Right, and then, I don't know, you almost wanna put that, the one that you were thinking of striking. Is wanna urge, how are we gonna urge the planning commission to do that? So it's just a comment, it's not gonna be in our final document, but it's a reminder
I think there is a lot of support on the planning commission for bike ped, making bike ped improvements, and
to inform a committee.
I mean,
to come with that,
I can
yeah.
definitely, I mean, I won't forget that. You guys are not gonna forget.
Okay, you don't need a memo, you don't need a memo.
As far as what we can do, I think if we could get a citizen group, including members of Sustainable Williston, Safe Routes to School, and someone from our bike ped task force in front of, like, as a united front to the planning commission to say, this is important to us, and talk with them about how to move that forward.
Okay, it's good.
Okay, thank you. Create a local payment. We missed something.
No,
That's it. That's the next one.
All right, so does the energy committee have the authority to create local, and what is the comment on that? Is the resolution?
what's the comment? In progress. So that the entity you'll notice is the town administration.
Oh, okay, that's right, not everything is us, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, you say in progress because of the EV charging work that we've.
yeah, and that there will, this spring be a charger installed in Village Park and, just planning to be charging installed back here, so.
Yeah, okay. Yes. There's different responsible people, okay. So there's input from Sustainable Williston, I know, on the whole bigger mobility. Yeah, which is what this is, and, we've heard from people from GMT and other groups, trying to create, micro transit, better bus routes. And again, that right now belongs to town administration, not necessarily with us, because it's bigger than us. It's not. It has to do with it, energy use reduction, but not necessarily what this committee does, so that's the way it's written.
So out of curiosity with any of these, it's just, you don't write in advocacy to any other committees at all in the plan, to just, you know, kind of stick to your lane on.
No, I mean, for instance, this says, in terms of who's responsible, this one says the town administration is responsible.
Right.
In other words,
Yeah.
the select board and the town manager.
It doesn't mean that other entities can't work on it.
Right,
It
Right.
just means that
Right.
that's in the end, the responsibility is the town administration, but they're, you know, like they can be, you can be working on this. I can be working on this, planning commission can be working on it,
Mhm.
but getting it in there as a goal is key, you know, like getting the.
Who staffs isn't the right word, who oversees our two, delegates, representatives to GMT,
Who oversees,
Chapin and Amy,
who oversees them?
who appoints them,
Who
like,
appoints
are
them?
they
The
affiliated,
select board appoints them,
select board appoints them?
yeah.
And is there any, and then, or like the planning commission involved somehow?
They report back to the.
They
select
report
board.
directly to the
Yeah.
select board, okay.
So Chapin presented the transit station plan. Does everyone know the status of that? It was supposed to be up at, by Shaw's.
Oh, last year, we did a feasibility study for putting in a multimodal hub
Yeah,
on town property, near Shaw's. So the next step for that would be to do a scoping study. And then to do, scoping study and conceptual plans, and then do, final plans, do permitting. And, you know, get the financing, get, you know, grant or whatever, and build it.
who's in charge of the scoping study?
Well, we're not, one is not being done currently,
And who's the entity that pushes these, advocates for these kind of things to happen?
so planning commission, planning department, so we do these things as we can get them into our budget, and, you know, that was something that we were thinking about, you know, or do we wanna do this scoping study for multimodal hub, or would we rather get the scoping study for the Route 2 path? We decided Route 2 path is the thing that we've been hearing the most about. That was a higher priority than the multimodal hub.
That's what I thought.
I mean,
No, that's not
yeah,
a bike
like you
lane.
can't do everything at once.
In
You have
terms
to
of impact, in terms of impact, in terms of energy impact, isn't mass transit a much greater, have much greater impact than?
So that would be a
And-
transit station.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's GMT who is basically provides the transit service. And right now, they're tremendously underfunded. They're not gonna expand their service anytime soon. And so having a transit station, yeah, that's it would be great to have a multimodal hub there with bike lockers and transit, but the transit service is not that great right now.
The question is marginal improvement, right? Like we have the transit. How much additional ridership would we get with a multimodal? Which is not zero, I mean, hopefully it'd be, a bunch would be more convenient.
Well, the idea of that was to connect to neighborhoods, to on-call vehicles.
Oh, you
To,
mean like micro transit?
yeah,
Yeah, so that's a whole nother thing too, and we did feasibility study for micro transit as well. And again, that's like, it's very expensive, and so there you go. I mean, the select board is probably not gonna be willing to spend $500,000 a year for micro transit service at this point in time. Not that it can never happen, not that it couldn't be done cheaper, but we've taken a step and we need to.
right.
We have it, it's here in the document, so it is a pathway, but it's just, making that happen is.
Right, yeah.
Well, does town administration imply the representatives of the select board sends to GMT? Or should we call them out explicitly, just like in terms of working with them? on or including them in our work here.
Dude, I'm sorry. I missed the.
Shape. Shaven and Amy
Yeah,
as the representatives.
yeah,
When we say town administration, is that inclusive of them and the relationships and the work they do? Or is it close enough?
not really, it's
Okay.
more like select board manager, I think is what town administration, but again, like, you know, that's not exclusive of other parties that might be involved, it's just that they have the ultimate responsibility for making, you know,
They make the
they
decision
make the decision.
to send representatives to the GMP to do studies and come back with recommendations, which then may involve more people, you know, for planning, but
Right,
Okay, so we should read that entire paragraph as being, this is what the representatives that we send to GMT are doing. It's in the energy plan, nothing to do with the energy committee.
Mhm.
right.
Okay,
Well, other than our. Okay, yeah, right, it's not, doesn't.
Because the energy
it
plan
doesn't
is bigger
include
than
anything.
us.
yeah.
Right,
Right, yeah.
and do we want it like, the word starts off like with the fourth line down, the benefits of this approach. You know, you have these three sentences that are like, are they essential to a pathway? They're really justifying the pathway,
Right,
not
the pathway itself,
defining it. So I don't know if we need them.
yeah.
The benefits of this approach include.
but why not call the benefits out?
Yeah, because otherwise somebody will say, why do you want to create diverse mobility solutions?
Okay.
And you'll notice that I changed short-term to medium
Medium
term,
term.
just trying to be realistic about it.
Yeah.
When you just explain the whole process of mobility studies
Pressing process.
and then final plans and permitting and, you know, you're talking about 2075, you know, so.
Send back to trust fund.
V-Trans park and ride, look how long.
We're waiting for the-
Or is it ongoing? I mean, we're working with, like, we have people that are representatives of Williston to GMT.
Mhm.
They are in an ongoing manner, working with GMT on some regular cadence. It'd be great to hear more about what they do, but they're doing it today, like, so
Mhm.
the work is happening.
Ongoing.
Some stuff is medium or much longer term, right? Like whether it's transit, microtransit, transit hubs, whatever.
Yeah, so maybe it is ongoing.
I would just say ongoing is much more optimistic.
Yeah.
Okay, look at it.
After one third time,
Do you want me to change it?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Uh,
And the next one, could we also add to the EVs, like maybe at the end of the first sentence? You know, identify strategic locations, or is it the second sentence? Identify strategic locations where charging stations will be added and funding opportunities. So like. Chart,
Identify strategic road.
I think this one needs to be changed to the energy committee as a lead entity.
Okay,
I'm sorry, what's that?
I think the energy committee needs to be the lead entity on this. The
Oh.
town administration's not gonna do that. They've got the purse strings at the end of the day, but all of the first half of that paragraph about evaluation and whatnot, that's within our
mhm.
space.
All right. Next. The next 1.1, creative vision and that, did we decide we don't have authority to do that?
Whoops, hold on. Requires new commercial, industrial, residential development, so I made a note on that, I think. Just that, I mean, you could keep it in there, for sure. Act 250 requires, EV ready parking lots. I did a bit of reading to better understand what EV ready is, and I believe it is, an EV ready space for, one EV ready space for every dwelling, and then if it's an apartment, it's, certain percentage, I can't remember what percent of, EV ready spots. It may even be, the new standard may even require like fully installed EV chargers for commercial. Melanie, if you're listening and you know, whether that's true or not, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, so the code is gonna be updated, both the residential building energy code and the commercial building code will be updated July 1, 2024, so soon, and there are higher percentages for EV charging than there had been previously. I guess what you guys can do with this pathway is, take a look at what the percentages are, and I guess think in terms if that's sufficient or not. I believe that the municipality could potentially request more spaces in zoning regulations in addition to the energy code. It's a little bit of a gray area because it's like kind of implementing a building code through the zoning regulations. But just, I guess, take comfort in the fact that the new round of building energy codes does have electric vehicle charging requirements. And Melinda's right that in some cases, I have to look at the language that it may just go as far as EV ready, meaning like when you're doing the site work on a property, making sure the conduit is there so that when the property owner does decide to include charging or connect to charging, it's, all the site work is done.
Yeah, so that make.
Does that help?
It still requires the. So in that case, no, it still requires, so for example, for a residential property. It requires the developer to then go the extra step to make EV charging available to the residents. As opposed to just saying, I've met my standards because I put conduit in the ground. And then move on.
Yeah, so EV ready doesn't necessarily mean that the actual physical charging station is there. And there's either myself or Melinda could take a look at the draft code. I could send it to her and we can tell you what the specific percent of a parking area for commercial buildings needs to either have a charging equipment or be EV ready.
So the bigger question is, because we put this in several years ago. And we said it's for the planning commission, but does the planning commission even have that kind of authority when you have a
Well, that's how it gets
building?
implemented.
No, Ben, you've got a state building codes and you've got Act 250, which are probably gonna override everything.
Okay.
You know,
We
I
did
thought-
put it in, though. We put it into the growth management plan points scheme, remember? Where'd that end up, Linda? We made a recommendation to the planning commission to update the growth management plan. With the right word for the point allocation.
Right,
You're at by development bylaw.
I mean. You could definitely leave a recommendation in there. I think it might be useful for me to share like a table, just illustrating the differences between the stretch code and the base code, because all development is subject to the base code, whereas the Act 250 is subject to the stretch code. And I think there are some differences in the amount of charging that's required. And I think it'd be helpful just to probably for you.
So you've got
As was said, is it redundant that it would be in the unified bylaw then? Or is it just a code?
If, yeah, I mean, I think that's that's for you to discuss, but to me, like, if the standards already seem pretty adequate under Act 250, and like the vast majority of, like, virtually all commercial development in Williston has to go through Act 250,
Right.
that it would be redundant, but
So maybe this is like, I'd like to see the information, that'd be helpful.
mm,
Do you know off the top of your head, sorry to put you on the spot, when Finney Crossing was built,
mm,
did it need to comply with any EV ready
No,
requirements?
there are none.
There's no chargers, but do they
There's
need
no
to comply with
Any
EV?
crossing? No, that was way. before.
no,
Okay,
I don't.
And I
think so.
doubt even.
But Cottonwood.
The annex, which is
Cottonwood.
under, they're doing infrastructure now, but if they're under the old Act 250, I don't know if they're putting them in either.
Um,
There are
They-
EV charging requirements in both the code that's effective now, but it may just be EV ready.
so as far as the annex goes, I did look at that, and all of the, like the row homes and the dwellings are gonna be EV ready, like
They are.
basically. Yeah, and if a owner, like, if someone requests an EV charger, he's gonna put one in. The apartment buildings are gonna have EV chargers in
Okay.
the garage spaces.
Yeah.
So,
But it's not an option in Finney because I live there and they never asked us.
well, so what about the other one? Cottonwood is the newer one.
Yeah.
yeah, Cottonwood, that was permitted quite a while ago, so, I don't think that it was subject to those requirements.
Because basically, we don't have anything we can look at and say whether or not EV ready actually resulted in chargers being built, because nothing was built with EV ready.
What about the Lions Church development?
That's what we were just talking about, the annex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so that
Did
one,
did the parking lot pass in the town vote?
no.
No,
mm-mm.
No,
They got
Um,
voted down, the parking lot
Yeah.
upgrade? Okay.
Everything got voted
the whole
down.
budget.
Really?
Yeah.
Except the school buses.
Except for.
And
Oh, because they're separate, they're.
maintenance, school
Um,
maintenance too.
That sentence, create a provision in the town unified development bylaw that meets or exceeds the code for any new commercial and industrial resident. If we're gonna leave it, we ought to tie it in with that code. And if it doesn't need to be in the town unified development bylaw, then maybe this whole thing doesn't belong there.
Maybe this is redundant.
why don't we,
so-
why don't we hold that thought for now, and we can revisit that instead of trying to
Okay,
wordsmith it right now.
As you can see, this takes a lot of work. And we've got two and a.
So this
Hey,
is,
you've got two
this
pages
is
of
the
it.
safe routes to school bullet here. Encourage walking safe routes to school. Blah, blah, blah.
Could you just maybe rephrase that to say, work with the school district and safe routes to school as an organization to.
then you take out sacred.
Yeah.
school.
Right. Forbid parents from sitting or idling their cars.
And I think that's also energy committee. not
Yeah,
Town
yeah,
administration.
yeah.
I have a question about that one.
Mhm.
Right.
And we talked about this in Sustainable Williston, that it's been going on for over 20 years. That, I know when, well, I have a 36-year-old, and when she got on the school bus to go to CVU, she was on there for an hour. And, that's why there's so many parents idling,
Mhm.
right? And so, this is an issue that just seems to never be addressed. And so I'm not sure, like, what number and what wording, but I think And we talked about a sustainable Williston, maybe getting together with other towns, but that also happens in Williston. And it seems to me that, if there were bus stops and kids went to a bus stop rather than going to every single house, it would be a lot quicker.
Well, that's where you say work with the school district and safe routes to school to try and do something about, to change the pattern of it, because you know, any of us that have raised kids have gone through this, you know, my boys are in their forties now, and there was always, how long is the school bus route this year when they announce it? Because some
Yeah, what time do you
years,
have to
some
get
year we were there, yes, they're the last one, and they go there, you know,
And-
quickly, you know.
Right, because it switches,
Yeah,
right,
and so,
right.
um,
Are buses really stopping at every house? And it's like, even growing up in the eighties and nineties, I was still thinking.
In my neighborhood, they have to walk up
Yeah.
to
yeah,
it.
they, in Penny Crossing, they
not-
needed congregated areas, you know.
Yeah.
so-
Oh,
The
yeah.
congregation areas, yeah.
But that, you know, when you talk about school bus routes, I think I mean, for one thing, the town's role is really limited.
Very good.
School board and no
So,
power.
I mean,
We have
we
no
can
authority
certainly
over the
talk to
school
them.
district.
And continue to work with, you know, the safe routes to school.
Yeah. Cause it does fit in with the other things we have above, and that's why, Kevin, to your point, putting maybe an energy committee instead of town administration makes sense.
Yeah.
Because then we can have a conversation, and they can say, well, we already have a task force looking at this, you know, and then we find, oh, we didn't know that, you know, the school may already be doing things.
I don't think so.
Well, we don't know until we.
I mean, I don't think
Uh,
so.
We don't know we don't know the scope of
Yeah.
the issues, like, we don't know what all is involved in that and
Right,
deciding what.
Right,
Well,
You don't know, it's a minimum distance that you have to walk to school, that you cannot drive to school. And maybe that, I remember when I walked to school, it was
and it was
quite
uphill
a
during.
while.
No, I mean, I don't think there is.
There's also issues today
Snow all year round.
related to safety that weren't there. I mean, not that the
It seems like you can live next door.
parents have feelings about safety and their kids.
I noticed it too, like I was following a bus through the town center one day and a bus with a kid pulled out of the school, drove 400 meters, dropped off a kid. And it was like, I just was kind of aghast, because
Yeah.
like, you should have walked, like, there's like plenty of walkways that connect.
Because the bus schedule could be set up to not pick up kids within a certain distance from the school.
That's ultimately the CBSD thing that we can
Right,
implement. I think Safe Routes to School is a good group to work with because they're in the
They're-
schools and they've got support. from the
They're really good. I
administration.
mean, it's Amy Brewer. I mean,
Yeah.
she's
right,
great. And,
and we've worked with her.
you know,
Okay, so if Sustainable Williston is interested in this topic, we would get in touch with her,
you can
With-
come to the meetings.
Yeah.
if you want.
Safe Routes to School?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll let you know.
One Thursday a month, right? Or the Tuesday?
It's, it might be Tuesday. I can't remember.
I think it's two.
Marcy, I'll send you the invite. for that.
Thursdays in the
yeah,
wall.
do you come to Sustainable Williston meeting
What's that?
I think it varies.
and
Yeah.
ask,
It's back and forth.
May, yeah.
I think,
She's been to our meetings,
yeah,
worked with us.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
next, encourage transit use, telecommuting, carpooling, van pooling, walking, biking. This all fits into much of what we
Yeah.
have already talked about.
It's more about reaching out to employers, and,
Oh,
Yeah, we do mention that above, though, somewhere.
Again, it's a time, it,
We do
it's
mention it
town
above.
administration, yeah.
it's more, yeah, it shouldn't be
Through
town
CAPA.
administration. It's more about, working with transportation demand management organizations like CAPA and I guess go Vermont, but, CAPA, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
so basically keep it the same, put it within the energy committee.
Cause the next one down. Oh, management.
Right. So, and developing a policy for municipal employees. What's going on with that?
where's that?
Second line.
Yeah, and it's like,
Developing a policy.
I don't see that.
Employer residential property manager and developing a policy, and so this is. Yeah, so developing a policy here for municipal employees, like, joining CATMA and saying, oh, well, now municipal employees can get bus passes or can, there's certain benefits that come with, or we'll develop a telecommuting policy. We actually have already developed a telecommuting policy, but any kind of that transportation demand management, policies,
But then does that belong with us?
well, I mean, it's, that part is town administration, I don't know.
Yeah, is it overreach for us to get?
I mean, I think if we change just like one word to say, and help develop or
Assisting.
assist in developing.
Okay,
Or-
great. Whoops.
Yeah, okay.
Then next one down, we're ready. So, we came to, discover the roadblock here for or one of the roadblocks. The town not getting, their trucks, et cetera. As EVs, the town manager said, it's because the state, they buy the vehicles from the state. And the state only has fossil fuel cars available, so do we try to, get rid of that, help get rid of that roadblock? I was gonna write an email today to find out who, what agency or person, I know someone I could probably answer that question. But, I mean, we need to get rid of the roadblocks that are preventing it.
I think it's a false roadblock, to be honest. I think that
Eric
it's,
Wells told me.
yeah, I understand that, and, I think that they have been customarily, vehicles have been purchased through the state contract. Doesn't have to be that way. There are other places, there are other entities like Sourcewell, which is also like a group purchasing, entity or whatever. That I've looked at the state, contracting site. There are dealers that have electric vehicles, but like, I don't know, this may change, but like everywhere, the inventory is really, really low. And it takes, I mean, even for non-electric vehicles, it takes like a year and a half to get them. So I think it's a matter of planning ahead of time and planning far enough ahead of time that you anticipate that lag. And there's no excuses, like, okay, we know in 2 years, we're gonna buy an electric vehicle. So we're going to order it a year ahead of time. We're gonna plan for that. So, I mean, I just think, yeah, it's like, yeah,
I was gonna say, it's like, when I worked for the state, it's like we had hybrids at that time, EVs weren't
Yeah.
ubiquitous, but it's like they're available.
yeah.
So
And-
should we put in a, schedule so they can, to draw up a schedule so that they have something, we have something, everybody has something and we
Well,
can plan in
That was in the
advance?
budget this year, so that was one of the
Yeah.
things that I appreciated when I read through the CapEx,
Mhm.
sorry. OpEx portion of the budget, no, it was CapEx portion of the budget this year,
mhm,
they actually had. Not just what they were planning for this year, which I think was one vehicle for the fire department, but they listed the replacement schedule for every town vehicle. In that, so that,
It
Yeah.
exists.
it's on the website from that meeting, and
The question is how many are electric?
no,
none are electric today, but what struck me about that was the replacement schedule. I think the next, after this one, the fire department said they were looking at possibly an electric F-150 to replace.
they have, yeah.
To replace the one they're replacing this year, what I'm most interested in is the thing in blue, the justification for if they're gonna
Right.
do it. But the next one out was, I think, at least 2027,
Uh-huh.
before we have another replacement coming up.
In the entire town?
I think that's what I read, maybe it's 26, but yeah, it's a couple years.
Yeah, so
That's very important.
I
It's funny,
think,
because the school buses are every year and get 3.
and also
Yeah.
there are towns, like, for example, Burlington. They don't use the state contract, they just put these out to bid. And they, and that's how they purchase their vehicles, so it's not like, I think it's just a matter of continuing to work on this and talking to the manager about this and getting like a different.
So do we change this? Because now we've given it to town administration to say it's an edict, replace municipal electric vehicles. Or like your suggestion above, does it become ours to say, you know, review and consult with town administration on the replacement of light duty vehicles.
Sim Williston had something about this specifically, and I like the wording in there.
I mean, I think that this is good as a goal, because it really like, it's very direct.
Yes,
And the Energy Committee recognizes its role in helping get there.
I swear there's.
But, he's already emailed something.
For basically most energy efficient with the least cost.
Oh, yeah.
And
Or least
provide
cost of the energy
justification
efficient.
okay.
I think we
Oh.
do,
to
So-
town manager or to, well, I guess,
I
justification.
don't,
Okay.
yeah.
So the first part, revise the town purchasing policy to require yeah.
I would just change the terminology there, but. The most energy efficient option, I just don't like that, I feel like that's it's a loophole that I could drive a Chevy Tahoe through. So maybe you wanna just,
Why?
Yeah, why is
Like,
that?
why is if the most energy efficient option,
let's
Electric.
call it electric, but especially for the light and medium duty. You know, if we're talking light and medium duty, we're just kind of beating around the bush, it's an electric vehicle.
but then I guess what I would be concerned about is, say, electric vehicles still aren't meeting the needs of the police, but they could get a hybrid. And so if it's just electric vehicle, well, I don't know, but yeah, we
It could
could.
be a plug-in hybrid, I mean, that would be a significant step forward, especially for the use cases they have, right?
Yeah, you say, maybe that's specific and say
I guess I'm
EV,
thinking
EV or
EV in the
plug-in
general
hybrid.
sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's, and like, leave it at that.
Yeah, they're all electric.
I guess it's fine, I just. Yeah,
Okay, say what you mean there, electric vehicle. Right.
Or plug-in hybrid. Cause you
Oh,
want,
it's
you know,
called,
I should say the police,
it's still an
say
electric
they,
vehicle.
Still
the
electric
police
vehicle.
gave a
Yeah.
justification and said that their cars, they. Doesn't work for that, well, whether it's the cops were too big to get in.
They have to actually.
That was the argument in Richmond, I think it had more to do with the amount of gear that they wear. And the specific one they brought, the Model 3, was difficult to get into with the vest and the belts and all that.
Okay.
It's not commenting on, but like, their reasoning was not commenting on anything else.
Melanie sent an email with some information about the requirements for charging. If you want me to read it.
Yes, please.
Charging requirements for residential, single family duplex up to 3 stories is 1 per dwelling unit or 25% of remaining parking. Oh, I thought it was plus 25% of remaining parking spaces. For commercial buildings, 4 or more stories.
Yeah, I think it's plus, I think it's
Okay,
not
yeah,
or, yeah.
and 25% of the remaining
Well,
parking spaces.
4 or more stories doesn't work in Williston.
The 3 award.
We don't.
Yeah, we
threes
do.
are ma-
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We can do
Or-
Half
5.
corners.
Oh, come on, nightmare.
So what
The
does it
4 or
say?
more stories only applies to residential buildings. That means that it's under the commercial energy building code.
Okay.
But
got it.
most buildings in Wilson will hopefully not be 4 stories, so be less.
Right,
It's
In the
not gonna, like,
residential area.
everyone's gonna like go under the radar here.
Right.
but the commercial code requires it regardless. Anyway, let me
Yeah, the
just-
commercial code is a little bit more complicated than the residential energy code, because the commercial code has requirements for commercial buildings and residential buildings that are 4 or more stories. And the
Yeah.
requirements are based on land use types. And it wasn't really clear which each of the land use types are in the draft version of the 2024 code. But I think for the residential code that applies to single family duplexes, multifamily, 3 stories or less, the requirements, they're I agree with that. 1 per dwelling unit makes sense. The commercial one is a little bit iffy, and I know that your pathway talks specifically about commercial, and so I think this group can, definitely explore more about the requirements for commercial buildings and consider putting a higher requirement, and just incur in the bylaw. Yeah, and
So then going back to the bylaw, we should say that what I was suggesting to add was the bylaw meets or exceeds the code. And in this case, it needs to exceed it because, 4 stories is not.
Then I would write exactly what you want, not it needs to exceed the code, be specific and write exactly what the requirement is for commercial. But, yeah.
We could reduce it to 3 stories. or more.
Well, the commercial buildings, 3 stories, why do the stories matter?
it's a matter of which energy code is triggered. So, because there's an energy code for residential uses, and then there's a code for commercial uses, and apartment buildings that are 4 or more stories are considered commercial use.
Mhm. Let's hold that one for now, and I can bring back some information and maybe some suggested language.
Okay.
Yeah, sound okay.
So, like, it's 8:04. Which is normally our adjournment, plus 4 minutes. Want to try and go, we've got a lot more to go, or do we carry it forward? Do we have a few other things to discuss? Which won't take as long,
Yeah.
but we could spend another hour here just
Yeah,
to
I
get
think we
through
have
the
to
next
carry
page.
Yeah, do the next one.
Okay,
I know whether this is gonna take, we'll be done in October.
I mean, so, I'm just encouraging you to really try to focus, don't worry too much about the exact words, but, try to focus on your general, like, goals, and, we'll make sure the grammar is okay in the end, but just focus on what you want and, the objectives and goals.
So what I'd
so that
recommend
maybe we
is-
can run through the next one a little bit faster.
Click on that draft 2025 energy plan. Can we still add comments to that one?
Yeah,
If you can take time and start at 2.12 under the transportation area, or it's probably marked as 1.1.
just go.
And you can go
just
in
go
and write, make a comment bullet bubble.
Oh, I don't think that. I
That
don't
one you
think that
can't do
that
that?
one is not,
Maybe point us
commentable.
back at the commentable one that we had. Is that the
Yeah.
same as this one now?
The one that, hold on a second.
This must be the editable one because you're writing it.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah.
but it's because it's my
You're the
computer,
owner.
so I have access. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that I think this is the viewable version.
And not
The editable one. I'd rather not fill that up with a lot of comments from
Okay.
the public. So,
No, I meant for the.
for the committee, yeah.
for the
So you
committee.
guys have a password. So if you, the link that I gave you is the editable link.
Right, you only sent that to me, I think. Well, you must have sent it to some other people, because there's other people making comments in there, so.
Yeah, I can send that back.
Yes,
again.
please. Yeah. Well. Good. All right, very briefly,
We done with transportation.
I think we are for now. We will have to continue on, and we will continue to review everything you gave us. And take that under advisement and add things, and I think there's something material there. Matt, you held the beat workshop.
Yeah,
Briefly, how did that go?
about 9 attendees from the public, plus 2 from Sustainable Williston, and me and Alex were there. It was, yeah, Alex did a good job. I set up my table and handed out a lot of the energy kits. I think almost every attendee grabbed one at one point.
Right.
So,
Right.
and then he did 3 different stations with his demonstrations, the different insulation levels of the houses and a couple other demonstrations, but people were really interested, asking lots of questions. I could sort of talk to them about energy committee and what we do. And, yeah, it was good.
Where was it held?
At the library in
Oh, yeah.
the, community room, I think. Yes.
That's good, thanks.
Thank you, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So. Other business, window dressers, so Melinda sent me a note and said she's going to take the lead on public outreach for window dressers, that we would work with the Burlington project to actually get them built. So we've drafted a article for the Observer. So we aren't officially, still never believe that, we're not officially sponsors, but we're working with the project, and so we're trying to get our name in it without. Window Dressers is the sponsor, but anyway, they've had 2 years at Burlington, done 2 years or more.
2 or 3, 3.
2 or 3, but anyway, they've got a process. And they will find a place to do a build. They did it at,
Echo last year.
yeah, Echo.
Yeah,
Is that
they're
Echo?
looking for a place though this
Yeah,
year.
yeah, and so if we can then start outreach. Melinda put out an article in Front Porch Forum the other day, yesterday, I think. Or the day before, anyway, that's the first one. Then we drafted this window dressers article for the Observer. I sent you guys all a link through that, and hopefully it'll be the article this month, and then we'll get on a roll of, without having to have full ownership of a window dressers program and all that involves. But if we got 10 people in Williston that said, gee, I'd like window inserts, we could get them coordinated with it and maybe volunteer time and get them plugged in and then help them out without having to own the entire process. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that's what you're
basically,
thinking.
I went to this meeting of the Burlington window dressers, and I basically just said, would it be all right to do some outreach in Williston? Because I guess they've gotten interest from Williston residents, and they've had to turn some people down because it was too far to go out and measure the windows and stuff like that. So they're like, yeah, as long as you're willing to, do the measuring. And I said, I think I can probably get volunteers to help with the measurement.
So it wouldn't necessarily.
So we would just basically train through their
Yeah,
organization.
Which is gotten
As-
very well developed.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
so that makes more
get our
sense.
feet off the ground that way, and not only ourselves possibly as the volunteers that measure things, but get community members to help out with that too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it just might be a way to get involved in a small way that's not too burdensome, hopefully. And just maybe there would be a few orders in Williston that.
Yeah.
would be-
There's enough older houses in Williston that could benefit from this.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. That's a good way to stick our toes in, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of, it could be, like, if done on a large scale, it's a really big win, I think, because it does have a powerful impact with people who get the inserts, and, it can be 10 to 20% save 10 to 20% of your heating bill. And they're really cheap and it's just like a kind of a fun, like volunteer kind of thing.
And the last time was spring event. And we've done Green Up Day, and we've done 4th of July, and I've done,
Do you want to get Beat back to do an electrification workshop or something, or some other workshop? Maybe? Do you want to do something else?
spring EV, which is what we talked about instead of doing it in the
Yeah.
fall.
Or in addition, we could, it would be interesting to do a spring EV event. There's some, I forget the name of it, but there's a, in May, right, there's a EV thing, like,
It's actually April, that's
April.
like, and that's like coming up way
It's like
too
next
fast.
Yeah. It'll snow
maybe-
obviously the day we want to do it.
maybe instead we focus on, we've got Green Up Day, staffing that, 4th of July, staffing that,
Mhm.
and Farmers Market, if we want to continue,
Yeah,
assume that actually can continue doing it, I think that's Sullivan Farm.
Yeah, and they'll probably continue.
But they,
and
yeah,
if you read their article
It's,
in Front Porch
Hell's-
Forum, it sounds like they're
Hell's,
gonna continue their events.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah,
When are the EV chargers going in
hopefully, as soon as spring comes, they were supposed to do it this winter
We can have
and.
an event or.
what if you do like a grand opening with like a EV, a mini EV
Oh,
event?
Yeah,
Around the charger, new charger.
Yeah.
Todd wouldn't like it. It would take up too much parking.
Oh, God.
Oh, I was talking about the one.
I was over there today, there were 4
No, I
cars.
was listening.
We'll do it at a Todd approved time.
Not during
Ford
baseball
morning.
season.
Alright. Okay. And as you can see in future agenda items, Wanda has energy fund, energy fund, energy fund. We've got a
So-
lot of work to
I'm
do.
a little concerned.
Oh, yeah.
about the schedule.
Yeah.
But we'll just, just continue to plug away at it.
Yeah,
Mm.
Is there any precedent for committees doing an alternate day long working session to plow through something like this?
You could have a special meeting if you wanted to do that, we warn it, and it would be, have to kind of look over the rules about special meetings, but I think you can do that as long as it's warned ahead of time. Select board sometimes does that.
big commitment,
Mhm.
5 PM to midnight.
Oh, my lord. I'm
Could
speaking
serve
nobody
some-
to
have some
myself, but
dinner,
like, what if we just
get
like
some
a
pizza.
Saturday morning bread and
Yeah.
breakfast and
Saturday
coffee
morning.
and more
Yeah.
coffee and then a little bit more coffee and just
Coffee and
plow
cookies,
through it
please.
like 4 hours on a Saturday or Sunday morning. I don't know.
You guys,
Yeah. Maybe let's see how we go through the March 27th. Maybe we'll get through the rest of transportation.
So we better get through that and then some more.
yeah, it definitely.
Some of these areas that
Some of these will go
are
fast.
smaller,
Yeah,
some we have less control over. I just think building, energy and transportation are
are
the
the
two
two
biggest
biggest,
ones.
yeah.
I mean, the citing policies,
I don't think we have any control over that.
well, you do, but like, they seem, I don't know, it's, you can discuss, they seem fairly robust.
Yes. They followed a lot of the recommendations of things that were already in place when we wrote that.
Right.
So basically, we front loaded all the big topics on this, which is good,
Yeah,
Mhm.
because those will flow over. And we should be able to pick up on the back end, and if we need a special meeting, we'll know that by the end of the May 8th meeting, right?
Yeah,
At the worst, and then we can
Mhm.
warn that a couple weeks, 3 weeks in advance.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think you need that much time,
No, she usually does it on Friday, for the fall.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So. Mhm.
All right,
We'll get through
Yeah,
thank you all very much. Thank you for sustainable movement. Yeah.
it. Melinda, thank you for writing with my job work this whole time.
oh my God, I hate that.
I know.
Yeah,
It's,
It's
it's
been
part of it
doing-
is the weird numbering scheme, it doesn't like those 1.1s.
Yeah.
and 2.
it's been doing that since 1985 when I had it on DOS.
That's why I held back a lot of comments because I didn't want you to put the table over on me. But the 1.1.
Yeah, it's just, it's all right,
It's right here, under one.
somebody will fix it.
Oh, Reed, you need to wrap up the meeting.
Oh, yes, Dar, thank you very much. I guess we are at 8:17 adjourning unless anybody else has comments otherwise. Okay, we're adjourned.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
See you, Dar.
Hey, guys.